Well, it might have been her, and I thought it was that.
Hey, everybody. Everybody looks like this. This is going to be just an information discussion to begin with, just to bring some stuff to your attention that, and it will be evolving and developing both locally for our office as well as all of Keller Williams and all the market centers and every other real estate company in the United States. So just to kick it off real quick, and then Crystal did a fantastic job on the PowerPoint. It has a bunch of information, but
Sean did that.
Sean-
Give her the credit.
Sean did the PowerPoint. But what we've got is, are you all familiar with the lawsuit and the settlement from mid-January that Keller Williams was involved in? Lawsuit, okay. Keller Williams made an offer in mid-January to settle a lawsuit that was filed in Florida, claiming Keller Williams agents had violated the do not call list in the TCPA, which is the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, or Telecommunication Consumer Protection Act. Keller Williams settlement offer, it was accepted, has to be approved by the court. $40 million. $40 million, as well as a significant number of other stipulations that they had to agree to as well, including additional training information on the Keller Williams website, information made available to all the market centers and the associates. The court at some point will have to approve it in March. But as of right now, all indicators are that the court will probably accept this. So I don't know about y'all. I can tell you with absolute certainty, our E&O insurance does not go to $40 million. So missed by this much. What that means is we got to be on our game. Okay, I know all of us are familiar with the do not call list, the TCPA. It's been around for years and years, and all agents that do cold calling and contacting clients and doing all of that have kind of gracefully skirted around it because it really has not had much teeth in it. But, you know, guess what? It has big, sharp teeth in it now. So this will be the first of the series. We got good information for you. It is going to be ever evolving. We're going to be doing a new office policy. It will be in the policy and procedures manual. We are going to incorporate that into that manual. It is also going to be a page that new agents that are onboarding will be required to sign. And we're going to suggest that it go into all team agreements as well and be signed. What we're asking is we want every agent in this office to be completely aware of it and to acknowledge the fact that they are going to follow the guidelines of the do not call list in the TCPA. Okay, so that's a quick background on what started all of this. And I don't know about you all, but $40 million makes my stomach hurt. And so we want to make sure that we are not going to be a number or a statistic in any more lawsuits or anything. And it's amazing the number of market centers that are just, they're not even participating, they're not doing much in it. This market center is going to be on the forward edge of this. Okay, so we're going to do it. We're going to do it right. So please stay tuned. You'll be getting more and more information as we go. So with without further ado. Crystal.
So,
See that
Yeah,
slide, I
okay.
would, before we leave the slide, and I won't say much through this, I'm mostly here just, for help, but. The big thing on this slide to me is I wanted to see in red where it said individual and the agents were named. So it's not just Keller Williams as an entity was sued, 2 individual agents were also named in this lawsuit. And what happens when somebody wins a big lawsuit? Well, absolutely. All of a sudden, people start coming out of the woodwork. And so that's why we said people are going to start coming after us. And so we just want to make sure that we are being proactive and protecting you and making sure you're protecting yourselves. So that's, I love what Bill said. There's a lot of people who are not really paying a lot of attention to this. For us, we're like, we don't want to see you there. So we're going to do everything we can to help make sure that we're compliant.
And let me mention one other thing, because people are gonna go, oh, well, that happened in Florida. An agent in this office was nice enough to show me a postcard that came to one of her clients, inviting them to participate in the class action. So, and that was in Greensboro. So you need to understand that this is going to be far reaching, and it's going to have a ripple effect. So, but it is already in Greensboro, just so you are aware. Okay.
yeah, it's kind of scary because the numbers are not just where the people live. I mean, think about area codes, like people port their numbers, they bring it with them. So you might have local people here in North Carolina, but they have Florida numbers. And the reason the lawsuit hasn't been settled yet is because it's still open for people to continue to be added to the class action.
Yeah, I got one, by the way. No, I got the postcard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And each person that wins, I think it says, you guys, it's a Real Trends articles. If you want to Google like Keller Williams lawsuit, the Real Trends articles, a very nice bullet pointed article to just kind of describes like what happened and then what Keller Williams agreed to do. And gives some fees. Basically, each person as part of the lawsuit is going to get $20.
Yeah, because the attorney's gonna say.
Well, they're getting 10 million,
Yeah, the attorneys get 10 million, 10 of the 40.
but there's 2 million people that are part of this class action lawsuit, 2 million. Yes, so far,
How are they proving they got a cold call?
it doesn't state.
My client is because remember. I'm the one with the postcard.
Yeah.
But
I didn't want to throw you immediately under the bus, but no.
they were just like, hey. You're getting sued, and I'm like. huh?
I am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So they have the postcard. It was one of them. If something happens, like what is the person actually in that, and how does the claim work, and I don't understand how.
That is going to have to be another class, Crystal. I mean, I'm not kidding. It is that involved because there are different coverages in our E&O. They cover different things in telecommunication, fair housing. I mean, just there are a variety of different coverage levels. And it's all broken down line item by line item on the E&O insurance. What you have to know is it is not a cure-all and it is not a safety net. If I've heard one agent say it, I've heard 50 say, oh, well, all I got to do is just report it to E&O, right? And it doesn't work that way. First of all, you're not guaranteed coverage. Secondly, there is a significant deductible that can be taken out of your pocket. That can also be doubled, by the way, depending on what kind of transaction it is. But there are a lot of variables in that, and we actually would probably do an E&O class.
I
And that
just
would,
wrote down, yeah.
yeah, and that would really, really scare you because it is not a fail-proof, fail-safe parachute. Ever.
I was gonna say, sorry if I missed it real quick, but did y'all discuss scrubbing? I have the hardest time.
We just got started.
We just started. Yeah.
We just started, so you didn't miss a thing. The only thing I was just gonna point out to you, and it's gonna be in the links later on, just so that you know, like, what Keller Williams did agree to was that they updated KW Connect So it's very easy to go and access all of this information now through KW Connect. More visible in all the franchises, so you're gonna start seeing notices throughout the offices and near the phones, just as a reminder. And a few of the changes that Bill mentioned that we're gonna do here at the Market Center too. Okay, what is TCPA, Bill?
Telephone Consumer Protection Act. And this is specifically geared towards auto dialers, redialers, auto connects, automatic messages being sent out, and that sort of thing. So, and I know most agents in this office, their auto dialer is just like switching fingers. But there are some agents in our office and they do use the auto dialers. So the TCPA is specifically geared towards these that you see: auto dial calls, pre-recorded calls, faxes, calls to cell phones and landlines. Don't forget cell phones count, and calls to numbers in the do not call registry. Class action litigation for TCPA violations is rapidly increasing. Such claims present catastrophic exposure, i.e. $40 million.
So a big thing to think about when you think about like what the difference is between do not call and what is TCPA is that TCPA falls under if you're calling the same number multiple times in a day. And that's what auto dialers do. They call, if nobody picks up, they move on, or they call it rapidly, like 3 times in a row. Has your phone ever rang like 3 times in a row from the same number?
Oh, yeah.
That's an auto dialer. And you answer it, don't you? Because you're like, who the heck is this calling me like 3 times in a row?
Yeah, is it emergency? Is it a family member? Is it,
Yeah.
something like that?
So that's the differences, but even the do not call list, if you're calling a number on that, that's a little different than the TCPA.
If I remember in reading for the 2 agents that got caught, one of the things was they were sending pre-recorded messages. That
Yes.
was one of the things they were doing.
Yes,
They were, and one of the agents in our office that does use Mojo, which is an auto dialer, told me the other day that they have now done away with the automated leaving a message and all of that. So I think some of the dialer services are being brought up to speed, and I think they're also gonna be required to update some of the things they do and don't do. But ultimately, guess who's gonna be responsible? Not them. Okay.
okay, so now what is the do not call registry? Because they are separate. The do not call registry, it's a site that consumers, including yourself, can go on and register your phone numbers to not receive phone calls. So it's a choice that you make for the phone number that you don't want to receive calls. It's free. And it works both with landlines and cell phones, but it does not exclude and stop all calls because not everybody reads the list, right? That's why we're here. It does not, and it's free, but it does not exclude and stop all calls. Sorry. So here's a quick visual just to show you the difference of between TCPA and the do not call evolution. So TCPA started in 91 and do not call came about in 2003. And then you can just see the differences between the two, but they work hand in hand.
Maximum per violation penalty, $43,280.
I was waiting for somebody to say that.
Like, good grief. 1,500.
Well, but that's per phone call.
Or text.
Or text,
Or
so it's $1,500 per text or per phone call. Yeah,
I mean, do you even make that less than a harassment case when you take it for? Right.
Evidently,
requires a stand.
Registration.
I don't know what those initials stand for. I'm sorry. So consent is huge, and we're gonna get to that in the next couple slides. Consent is huge. So North Carolina state law will protect consumers as well. So if they've registered on the do not call list, which is on a federal level, North Carolina will also protect them, and they have the authority to go after the telemarketers through the courts as well.
I'm looking up Stan, I'm not.
It's a subscription account number.
We got it, right, good.
You got, okay. That's,
It is. And you'll learn a little more about that because of what the office is going to do on a limited basis. We will be setting up an account with the do not call registry here. So, but that's what that is, so that you can access the do not call registry, and it is done by area codes.
You can do it by state too. I did it myself. 5 zip codes or 5 area codes are.
Right.
Anything over 5 is a certain amount, or you do it by the entire state. Is crazy money. But it's for the year, for the entire state.
It is for the year. For the office to do every area code in the United States would be about $34,800.
y'all want to raise dues?
Cheaper than one family.
Hey, listen, divided 55 ways, nothing to it. So.
Is there, with the do not call registry and then they're wanting to get remember this was. If somebody wants to be on that, do they have this, is there an expiration or do they have to do it, keep up with it yearly or once you register it? There's no expiration.
It's good for 5 years.
If you want to be on it, every 5 years, you have to. Opt in to it.
Yes, for each number. You can't just do it. I mean, you don't do one number and it automatically does everything else register to you. And if you change numbers, that number has to be done.
So thought this was interesting that 250 million Americans have placed their phone numbers on the do not call list registry. And in 2022, the Federal Trade Commission received 3 million do not call complaints.
Wow.
3 million.
Who here is on the do not call list? How many of you all have been called or texted about health insurance?
This hour.
Yeah. Your number's on the do not call list. They are violating that.
So I can do it. I mean, I'm not here to.
Turn into the trade commission.
You can file,
You
you
can
can
file-
file a complaint. You can file a complaint.
You can file a complaint.
I actually have now saved an auto response. And I send it out every time I get one of those, and it says, are you aware that this number is registered on the do not call list? I will be filing a complaint against this number immediately. I bet I've gotten 5 responses back going, oh, sorry, didn't mean to do it, blah, blah, blah.
Too late.
Not a second violation.
Yeah.
Hold on, guys, we got a question.
That is the one that, and you give me their number, and then because their numbers on do not call list, how does that work?
You need to ask your friend to have that person contact you and say, your friend whose name and number you gave me is on the do not call list. I can't call them. They can call me. You can give them my number, or would you call them and ask them to call me?
It covers everything.
It covers every health insurance, real estate agent, so, yeah.
Yeah, this is not just a real estate deal. It's, I mean, every industry's getting hammered, but I'm going to tell you that this settlement is opening the door to a lot of people that like to do the trolling, and they will actually try to set you up and do stuff like that. So be aware.
Here's North Carolina's numbers. For last year, there were 7,400, or I'm sorry, 7.4 million people who registered on the registry. And the Federal Trade Commission received 102,000 complaints from just our state. We're ranked number 16th per 100,000 population in complaints. So who's exempt? So these are just kind of questions that kind of help you like sure to answer your questions spinning in your head. You have a business relationship because that's what we do. What is consent to be able to call the people? So an existing business relationship defined by TCPA is someone you currently do business with. And the exemption includes companies with which you've had a business relationship during the past 18 months. And they have made an inquiry within the past 3 months. And, oh, sorry, or.
How do you keep track? I mean, you just like screenshot that it's been within the past 3 months that they contacted you or? I mean, how do you?
I keep every email that's ever been sent to me in with my people. I can go back. They're time stamped and dated. Do you keep track of it? That's the only way I keep track of it.
It would not hurt. Back 100 million years ago, when some of us first got started in real estate, we used to keep a spiral notebook and we took notes. Tom Alexander's back there doing this. We used to write down telephone numbers, who it was, who we talked to, and a quick thumbnail description of the conversation. Some of us still do that. I still write down notes. I still do all of that. And Tom is holding up his.
You can put it in command,
You can put it in command.
in your notes in command, and if you're making your phone calls out of your KW app, remember that when you do that, it's coming from your phone number, so it still looks like it's coming from you. But then command prompts you as soon as you are done with that phone call to log any notes, so that way before you move on to the next thing, you go ahead and log your notes in there, and you can set a task for the next time that you want to reach out to them. That's the easiest way that I can think of keeping it in front of your face if you're not going to keep a notebook.
I agree completely.
So is there any, you could work with somebody for a while, and then we don't know that there's people. Yes, so, I mean, there's no expiration, right? But when you, or there should be, you gotta say we're still on the call and then they're 75, 30 years old. I mean, then they come on and say, well, I'm gonna call. What are we calling your?
Can I ask a clarification question that might? If this is around mostly solicitation.
Sure.
So if you're calling somebody just to say, hey, we built a relationship, I'm your friend, I just want to check in and see how you're doing. That's very different of calling and saying, hey, it's been 7 years since you sold your house, are you looking to buy your next house, right? It's a difference between solicitation in some manners, right? And so if you're just building relationships and that's the kind of relationship you have, now if you make that phone call and they say, hey, it's great to hear from you, but I never want to hear from you again, then you have to cut that relationship. But it is solicitation is what's really the line that we're trying to make clear.
It is. Just remember how you remember a conversation and how they remember a conversation can be this way. It is just safer to not contact them if it has been 18 months since your last business interaction with them. Okay,
But you have buyers who call you about a property or they're interested, they think they're ready to buy. And then they found out they're not, for whatever reason, they can't do anything right now. You're saying after 18 months, we can't even follow up with them anymore. Even though they know if they want to.
If they're on the do not call list.
if they're on the do not call list, that is correct. 18 months after the end of whatever the business relationship would be.
That unless you talk to them at least every month.
If you're contacting them every 3 months, then you're in a current conversation.
But if they, so you contact them, you've left a message, you have not had communication with them for a while. Then you're looking at 18 months and then you're done.
Yeah, because you don't have consent then. They're not responding back to you.
Well, what if, even if you see them reading your emails and things like that, you're still having contact with them.
But your emails, if you're sending them through command or a different CRM program, have the stop or unsubscribe. So that follows the rules of TCPA. They have to have that ability to tell you to stop or they want off the list. And if you're sending it and they're not replying, but they're not unsubscribing, then that's consent.
Okay.
because you're giving them the option to remove themselves.
You know, that's, it's okay to call.
Well, yeah, and I always go down and follow up. I'm gonna call back.
If you have any doubt, send them an email and say, hey, I'm aware you're on the do not call list, but I've got some important information. May I call you? Keep the response. Okay? You notice that nowhere on here is a TCP A and E. Does not include email.
So then however, if the consumer makes a specific request to someone in the company to be placed on the company's do not call list, then you may not call, even if you have an established business relationship with the consumer. Which means you have to revert back to emailing, but you cannot call them.
We will be starting an office do not call registry. I'll tell you something interesting. I've got a business relationship with Ronnie and we haven't talked in a while. And all of a sudden he talks to Steve. And he says to Steve, don't call me anymore. I'm on the do not call registry. You're mentioning that to him is just like you saying that to me. We're for the same company. It's just like listing agreements and buyer agency agreements. It is with the firm. So if you tell one person in this office not to call you because you're on the do not call registry, that applies to every person in the office. So when you tell that to Steve, first thing Steve's going to do is he's going to give it to our do not call list administrator, we'll have someone in the office who's going to keep that registry and we're going to update it every 30 days.
Come on, man, get me off that list.
So
You see though how complicated and convoluted some of this is. This is why we didn't want to be one of the market centers is just like. We hope everybody understands. It's not just a one simple, there's layers.
So with that list, is it gonna be like a system where you type in 323, or am I gonna have to look on a long chart? Try to find a number?
I'm not sure how we're going to set it up, quite frankly. I'm going to
Yeah.
partially leave that up to the administrator on how they would like to do it. The do not call list here and our office do not call list will be required to be updated every 30 days. Must be. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
She said, how does it work with Mojo Dialer? It's the same. If someone tells you to remove them off the list, then you have to let the administrator here know to remove them off the list.
I mean, you told me that, so, because my understanding is it's supposed to be scrubbed, but there's no guarantee.
Correct.
So for using that, what,
It's still your responsibility because you're using that dialer to check those numbers if you do not have a relationship with those people.
They're not,
Again, it falls to the marketing and solicitation.
they're not going to pursue.
Well, but you can upload your sphere in Mojo and you can call your sphere in Mojo and you have that business relationship. So it depends on who you're calling. They're supposed to.
But any of those dialers, any of those companies, they scrub, but there's somewhere in the small print that says that if there's a mistake, it's not their fault, it's yours. So just FYI, yes, they say they scrub it, but there is almost always a disclaimer that says if somehow we messed up, at the end of the day, it's your license, it's your responsibility.
so realistically, if we're using the dialer, our expectation is to check each one before we call, not talking about the when we actually do the numbers, our expectation is about checking each number before we call them.
If you're soliciting,
Yeah,
yes.
to keep yourself out of trouble.
Okay.
So you'll do just a little bit more prep before you do your calls.
Keep in mind, the complaint that is filed, if one is ever filed, is not going to be against Mojo. Okay, it's going to be against the agent in the firm.
Yeah, because those agents were using something to do it and yeah, and nothing else, nobody else is.
I have no idea who it was.
Yeah.
Maybe for all we know, Mojo's over there doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have written consent, then you are allowed to contact that person. It all goes back to the consent. There's no time limit or expiration on that consent either. So they can rescind, but they can rescind it at any time, right? They didn't change their mind. But the consent's tied to the party and not the number. So if they change their number, you're good to go.
So in our buyer and seller consultations, can we have an office form that makes them give consent to sign exclusively with the firm indefinitely?
I think we could probably generate something like that. I think you can also do the same thing. May I have permission to call you during,
I'll say, yeah.
and you keep it. And you keep it and it's in writing. I would. I mean, I think that's, I think from this point on, I can tell you everybody on my team is gonna be doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, here's your favorite slide, Latoya. Did you know how much that penalty could be?
Right.
This slide is just simply to say that it's not just big corporations or companies and civil lawsuit attorneys. It can be individuals that can also cause and start the civil suits towards you.
Does anyone get the reference in this? Do you remember? Citizens arrest. Citizens arrest. Yeah,
Someone registered on your website. For more information about. It's okay.
if they solicit you to contact them with information, then you are entitled to contact them. But they have to reach out to you first to say, please contact me. Yes,
18 months of business for 3 months.
from contact, right?
So does this apply to like, 'cause I'm about to just start calling people on Messenger, on Facebook, because does that apply to Messenger?
No, none of to my knowledge, it does,
As of right now.
as of right now, it does not. But I will tell you, electronic communications are probably going to go up. They're probably going to escalate because as this gets more and more teeth over the next year or two, people are going to go, well, I'm going to do it on Facebook, or I'm going to do it, on Instagram or Messenger or something like that. So
Yes,
Yeah, telephone, text message,
Telephone,
email is.
Fax.
Fax.
Email that has do not describe, and then for your social media, they can block you, so that's why right now, that's not an issue, because if they don't want to hear from you, they can take care of that pretty quickly.
Crystal,
What was the question?
knocking on doors.
no,
This is only in regards to, for calling. Yeah,
now if they sick their dog on you, that's a bad sign.
Bring food, it always helps.
so we thought this was a great question during an open house, because that's, we get a lot of people's names and numbers in open houses. And they do the sign-in sheet. Does that give you permission to contact them if they filled out their name and number on that sign-in sheet?
No.
How many people say yes? Yes, raise up.
I should.
No? Stu knows. No, doesn't, because you've got to put your disclaimer that they give.
Pilar, what is your say?
So I'm online and every sign-in sheet in the bottom.
Yeah,
So.
it needs
And I
to,
keep that.
yep,
As I start calling.
Put it in big red letters too, so they understand.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah, you're giving me permission to call you, yeah. Okay, next question. I've checked the do not call registry and their number is not there, I guess, missing a word. I make calls at varying times throughout the week. Since they're not registered, I can call them at any time,
No. Between 8 to 9.
8 to 9, any day of the week, varying days of the week. Yeah. Even if they're not on the do not call list, you have to do Monday through Saturdays, 8 AM to 9 PM in their time zone. Not your time zone.
If you're calling people past 9 o'clock, I wanna have a conversation.
Yeah.
Just saying, I mean, we're allowed to have boundaries. You don't expect your dentist to be open past certain hours. You don't expect your attorneys after certain hours. So it is okay that you have proper business hours.
Agreed. So you've checked the registry and their phone number is not listed. While you're making your introduction, they ask you to add them to the company do not call list. What do you do? You're required to find the administrator, which will, of course, let you know who that is, and have them added to the list.
And do it immediately. Literally, I mean, do it immediately, so you don't, oh, I'll do this when I finish making my calls today. It ain't gonna happen.
6 months later.
Right.
Here's what we're doing at Keller Williams One to help you. Bill mentioned this, like we're gonna implement the do not call registry for the office and have an administrator to help us all. We are going to get the area codes for 336, 743, 704, 980, 828, 919, 984, 910, and 952. Covers our area of service, but it's not gonna cover all the numbers.
That's all of North Carolina, but only all of North Carolina.
Yeah, but moved here.
I never knew North Carolina had 9 area codes.
I didn't either, I've never heard of it.
But how many people, how many clients do you have that you're working with, as Crystal said a few minutes ago, that bring their number with them from Missouri or from Texas or from wherever they are?
Everybody does.
So
So
if you,
the office account is not gonna protect you wholeheartedly. But you can register as an individual person and an agent on the do not call list and check yourself.
and get up to 5 area codes for free,
And you get 5 for free.
So you guys will.
252.
You'll get all these numbers. You're on the call.
That may have been what 952
Will
was.
they supply those numbers to you guys to create a spreadsheet of some sort? So, okay, so we'll have to create a searchable database. basically.
We're not sure how that's gonna work yet. We're still,
They don't have that service, like the DNC doesn't have, or whatever. and then-
that's where we get this from. Like we're getting that from the
But if you
DNC.
paid, let's say I paid the $3,500,000, and I wanted all that information, did they have a searchable database that you can use? Because whenever you Google this, you get 2,500 websites that all say, pay us, and you can search the databases, and most of them are fake.
But when you go straight to DNC, there's a register here and a login. So once you're registered, you can log in.
I heard that Reddit is really good at scrubbing.
That's it's similar to Mojo.
They're not better than Mojo, it's saying.
They're all gonna put I mean, do they scrub it or not? We don't know, but at the end of the day, the liability is still the county.
Everybody's not on the do not call list, so that.
I got you. Oh, you're just saying you just heard the
I'm
one with the
saying
better
I've
call.
heard the grapevine that they're better.
So agents and assistants are gonna be required to be checking the do not call list. We're of course gonna have a disclosure for everybody to sign. It's gonna be part of the policies and procedure guideline. And we're gonna keep you guys updated as we put those things in place. So how do you stay compliant? You can register, and here's the link. It should be on your printouts. Here's where it says you get the 53 zip area codes. And make sure that you subscribe. Get it updated every 31 days. Keep copies of your written consents, emails, text messages. However, like keep better notes with your phone calls. Keep your open house registries, like keep that stuff. And provide a user-friendly way for people to opt out of your text or emails. If you're using Command or your CRM, it should do that for you. And then be sure to check the office do not call list as well.
Questions?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know. We have how many agents in the company?
230.
Times 5 area code, you gotta get all of them, man.
If we divided it up at all,
We
I
should do
had
that.
that same thought, last comment, I had the same thought you had. Could we have the whole nation, you know, and I don't know how to make that work. All I know is we're gonna try to at least get the state and, you know, and as policy evolves and as, this is gonna, so that's to Bill's point. Today is day one. Day 30 will look different than day one, day 90 will look different because as this evolves and as we get more information, and then obviously KWRI is going to start pushing some stuff down. They're making a task force. They're just not quite there yet. We're just a little bit ahead of them because, well, we know what's most likely is coming down the line once this goes ahead and settles all the way. And I believe March 7th is the last day.
That's last day.
And so, you know, it's gonna keep changing, but for right now, this is what we know to do. And so that's kind of the way to take it. As of today, this is the best way to protect you. Will we come up with better ways? Most likely. We'll grow in this. It's a process.
To your point also, according to one of the articles I read, in a telecommunication journal, they're adding 2 to 3 area codes a month across the nation. So it's a continually growing and ever changing. And they are now doing, and they're doing it in North Carolina as well. They're now having some overlay. And it used to be 336 was right here. Now it's 336 and something else, 984, something like that. We actually have another overlay because we've maxed out at 336. So it's not just the ones you're used to. Now some of the same geographic areas have another one. And James, you're right. That's not supposed to be 952, it's 252. That's a typo.
The other way to stay compliant is avoid making the multiple calls or leaving multiple pre-recorded messages on the same day. Don't do that. Just call, leave a message and be done with it that day. That includes texting too, and limit your call times to business hours, Monday through Saturday. And then this is the links for KW Connect, where you can find it. I'll click it in just a second. But then the National Association of Realtors also have information on this too. So if you log into your account there, you'll be able to see those. So these links are here if you guys want to click them later, but where you can quickly get to it through Connect. Log in here. We went straight to it. If you were in Connect and just needed to know where to come, go to resources and it's under marketing. And when you click marketing, it's going to be all the different places that you can go to get the branding and things, and it's at the bottom at compliance. Do not call.
Make sure as well, your assistants are on this the same way. It's also calls being made on behalf of someone. So if you have a telemarketer, if you have Mojo, or if your assistant is making those phone calls on behalf of you, that assistant needs to be aware of these guidelines as well. Okay, they may think it's fine to pick up the phone and call somebody that y'all did business with 3 years ago, and that's business been past 18 months. And you just need to make sure anybody that is calling on your behalf is aware of the guidelines as well and has access to the registry.
Yep. And these are all hot links, so you can open them and get into them. And then one of those links is this page that you can print off. Like if you want to print off, put it on your front of your desk. If you're just like get confused and want a quick reference, this is just a quick reference of what's acceptable and what's not, what not to do for a quick visual. Any questions?
I have about 16.
Nobody is smiling. Like, I wish y'all could see your faces. Everybody's learning.
Yeah, there was all that happy chatter when you first got here today.
Do we want to talk about the office though? No, I'm just kidding. Kidding. Well, I'm just curious, what did you think that this class was gonna be about based off of the name? I'm just curious if anybody had any thoughts of what they thought it was gonna be.
What do you mean?
There's a lot of.
Right? If we would have told you that it was a do not call, would any of you have showed up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good job. I like that answer. Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm just, honest answer, just for my own.
Yeah. Yeah, we can send it out in email. Yeah, yeah, we can send it out in email.
I will do it company one, it's not bad.
Do you know, can we get additional insurance to cover for any lawsuits? Do we know anything? Does anyone know anything about that?
I don't.
It will an umbrella policy cover individual agent?
Actually, everybody sitting in here should have an umbrella policy, period. I mean, just
And bring it up to 10 million.
slash 40 million. No, but I don't know in that regard. The telecommunication laws and guidelines are different. They are specified, intellectual property rights are specified differently on our E&O policy. There are different applications to different things. I don't know the answer to that. You would probably want to have a conversation with your insurance carrier on that. The office E&O policy is going to cover sort of the standard normal telecommunication issues and that sort of thing. But if you're seeking extra coverage for yourself, if you are somebody that's going to do, a lot of dialing, a lot of cold calling, a lot of stuff like that, it certainly won't hurt to contact an insurance professional. They would know more about it than we do.
Chris
I have a
said,
question.
yes,
So I don't do any of this robocall that you guys are talking about, but I do frequently call people just that I know. So am I okay just calling and saying, hey, how's everything? I saw on Facebook, blah, 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 just kind of checking in. In some way, somewhere in the conversation, I may say, hey, if you know of anybody that's looking to buy or sell, let me know. I'm always here for you. If you have anything going on with the house and you need a reference, let me know also, because I know people in the industry. Do I need to call? Do I need to check a do not call registry for that?
I would if you're going to have any kind of solicitation in your conversation. I'm looking back there.
I feel like this is a disaster that is never going to go away. We can't even get people to do regular paperwork and get it right, much less all these people this is our business. This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is what happened. Somebody out there broke the rules and we all now pay for it. That is how the world works.
And I will tell you that the agreement for a huge franchise like Keller Williams to agree to a settlement of that size is going to set a precedent. Okay.
so Chris wrote in the chat that, there are entire law firms set up just to file these lawsuits.
That's all they do.
That's all they do.
The guys that filed this lawsuit have done it repetitively over and over and over and over. The attorneys that were involved in this lawsuit.
Oh, that was Eddie on. Yeah. And then Chris also said that, since 2019, KW has told them to read the rules in bold 2 times
A day.
a day. So they have to read it every time they're there twice a day. What did Jeff?
Chris sent us the stuff that's included in bold. He was nice enough to share that with us. And he actually included the instructions out of the instructor's manual, and they have to read it verbatim. Verbatim.
Everything that you see that comes out of Keller Williams will start with do not call, no matter what class you're taking. They let us know that when I was in Austin as well.
FSBOs that have their house on Zillow, and I just call them up. Isn't that then soliciting to the public?
No, that's you soliciting their business unless you're gonna buy their house.
This was my rule on FSBOs. I did a lot of FSBO business as an agent. FSBOs and expires were my bread and butter when I first started. So my rule always was the very first call, I was just calling to get permission to call them back. That's my, hey, this is Jen Dixon from Keller Williams. How is it going? Yeah, I see that. Great. You mind if I give you a call in 3 weeks and see how it's going in 3 weeks? I just got consent. And then I email after that, if I have the email address to say, hey, thank you so much, I'm gonna follow up with you as you let me know in 3 weeks. But it's that solicitation in that first call. Now, once they say yes, you can call them back. It's open field. They gave you permission, they gave you consent. But yeah, my first phone call was always just an introduction, never solicitation.
May I put one caveat on that, because I
Yeah,
think,
you're
I
broken
think
in
you,
charge, that's what's important.
I can't tell you how often, because I deal with this every day, and so does Crystal. He said, she said,
Mhm.
the way you remember a phone conversation may not be remembered the same way by whomever you place a phone call to. So I strongly recommend, if there's some way to document it or to get it in writing, I would certainly do so. If it is a for sale by owner, and I actually like Crystal's idea, face to face is hard to beat. Hi.
Yeah.
Get permission, get it in writing, take one of those sheets with you that will generate that says, yes, you can contact me.
Yeah,
No calls, cell phone. There's no calls, cell phones without, that's saying, we can't call it up or never, like, what, is that?
was that on the do not call?
Yeah, you're pretty correct.
The cell phones are included like landlines are in the do not call registry.
Oh, okay.
That it applies to landlines and to cell
Right
phones
there, yeah.
Okay.
It,
And calls and.
Without consent.
and text messages.
Yeah, that's all it's saying, is that cell phones are no different.
There's a.
unsubscribe or stop, yeah.
And that is. Okay.
Yeah, and if you're using Twilio, that automatically is included in that for this reason.
Okay, and it's fun, and as you said, it has to be very fair,
Their time zone,
fair time zone. Like the time zone that they're in,
yes.
yeah, we know where they are.
What do you got?
But so it's like where they're local registered, like a area code, or like physically where they are.
I mean, these are federal laws, right? Like, and that's where you have to, like, this is covering things on a federal level, so. My mom's zip code is 704, or area code 704, but she's here, so that's this area code, this time zone, it works, but someone in California. You don't know, so just keep it business hours. I mean, if you just keep it professional or bankers hours, I think you're gonna be safe.
Well, then that's 11 on 8 o'clock on our coast, it's 11 o'clock on the west coast.
For 3 hours.
Yeah, yes, 3 hours.
It's 3 hours.
Safest thing to do is in the middle of the zone, so if you thought here, you would wanna wait till
11.
11 would be California, and then you cut off at,
So 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Question, who calls at 8 o'clock at night?
That's why I said, if we're making phone, I want to step it down.
Who's, I mean, I'm about ready for bed at 8. Yeah, so you're fine, like, you guys are working in daylight hours, right? Like, it's fine, you're fine.
11 would be start time.
What about like the offer that I just did, where I'm having to contact the client at midnight, because the offer has to be put in at midnight?
You're in a business relationship with
Sure,
that
that's-
person.
that's okay. Yeah.
Even though it's outside of the contract now.
You're in a
Yes.
business relationship, so that's different.
And he was responding to you and answering you and texting. Any other questions?
Have no clue who they are or how to check.